I'm here with AMAX. We do total solutions. We're building a lot of AI products right now, and answering the question about what is AI has been a difficult question depending on what scale you're operating at. And so we have a RAG demo at our booth that we've made as a proof of concept for some of the cool things you can do with your own internal large language model deployments. And so I'm sort of going to just go over why you would want to do that, who's doing what at different scales, and sort of what it means to be an AI company today. And we actually build the hardware, install the hardware. We work at data center level, at workstation level, and everything in between. So this is one of the big questions, is how do companies actually deploy AI? What are they doing with it? And so there's three basic categories, if you will. The first one you're probably all familiar with. If you've heard of OpenAI or ChatGPT, they've trained a very large model. And a lot of the people at this show are building giant GPU superclusters to just maximize the size of the model that they can do. We do that. But this is a very limited number of people are actually training models, I'll call it, of significance. Some people will train really small models. Some people will train trillion parameter models. But this is very large scale. So the next level is what I'll call production services. This is more common. It's if you're using an AI system. So ChatGPT is a really good example of this. It's a service. End users are using it. It's not just a model. 11 Labs is another one where you can clone your voice and then have it say anything or type it out. So we've been making videos that use 11 Labs to just really quickly avoid having to hire voice actors and make YouTube incredibly quickly. The third, and probably what will be the most common deployment for AI, are just internal tools. And I'll use Walmart as an example. They have a very large product catalog. And so one of the things that they do is they have to write meta descriptions for every single page that they put up. It's a whole team. There's hundreds of millions of products. It turns out one of the great use cases for ChatGPT and large language models today is you can just dump a product page in and say, write me a meta description that's perfect for Google, optimized for SEO. Well, it turns out companies like Walmart would want that internally done. They don't want to throw everything into ChatGPT. They want to do it on premise with their own tools. They want it optimized their own way. So this is just a really good example of, okay, now we're using AI internally to go do something great. So we'll start with, if you come to a solution provider like us and you want to train a large language model, this is both expensive and requires a significant technical staff to kind of run this treadmill. And you have to continuously improve it. There's a lot of people that have been doing things on the cloud. It's been fantastically expensive. And if something goes wrong midway through training their model, all of the time that they spent working with the cloud is just wasted. So given that they know they're going to be a company that now is outputting large language models as a product, they invest in on-prem. So that way they can continue, they can refine it, they can keep adding to their model, and as soon as they finish one, they begin work on the next one. The reason you would do this is it grants you complete control over your destiny. This is a fairly big deal, especially with OpenAI and other companies moving at the speed which they are, where if you put all of your data and all of everything you're doing in the hands, they may either copy your thing if it's useful enough, putting you out of business if you're a startup, or they may be including your proprietary data into their training, which you may not want, as some Samsung engineers who may be here noticed when they put some semiconductor manufacturing data into GPT earlier this year. So let's go to the next more common one, which is you want to run an AI service that just people at this show are going to use. This is highly priced, but this is much easier to get your hands on. This doesn't require 10,000 nodes of H100 clusters. You can do it with that, but this is where inferencing comes in. And so CPU comes in, and Intel ears perk up. There's a lot of interest. This is when you're running a service and maybe you have a 10 or 100 or 10,000 concurrent users using your AI thing. And you're doing it on premise, because if you go on cloud, you are bankrupt in a year. You can use cloud for overflow spikes and like bursts, as people call it. But if your general production service is running on cloud, for anything beyond what I'll call the prototyping and like early launch stage, you are going to have some significant financial problems long term. So this is the main point of this talk, is you want to build internal tools. So the topic is Retrieval-Augmented Generation. We have a demo at the AMAX booth. Please come by and you can check it out. I can talk about, explore what's possible. But what this is we've taken a model, a large language model that someone else made. In this instance, it's a llama model. And we've thrown like 10,000 of AMAX's internal PDFs, product sheets, and documents into it. So that way we can actually use it to do real work. And so the very short nuts and bolts of it, this is a product-focused LLM for our products. We can ask it a question like, what's a good Xeon server, and who's the best storage provider? And it'll say this SKU from our listing with DDN or some other solution that we put in, and we can say, give us 4 options, so that way we can explore it with sales. And so this is a real life, our data demo, and we imagine that most enterprises are going to be deploying AI in this fashion. This is a product demo, but maybe you want to use large language models to do stuff with accounting or with HR or with something else, and you want it trained on your data. You don't want to be exposing it to other teams, so you want the marketing LLM that's in-house. This is how you build that. And so when we build solutions, the hardware that you spec out for this is very, very different. This is much smaller and more affordable than the other two that we just went over. So I'm going to go over that last point that we talked about, which is data ownership. As everything is going into cloud and there's a bunch of service providers everywhere, data ownership is super important. And it's because technology companies like here have been convincing the rest of enterprise that data is valuable. And they've started listening. So when it comes time to just handing over everything that you're doing to some other service provider, maybe you want to think twice about that, because maybe they'll go into your industry next. Maybe they put it into their model and then they're working with one of your competitors, and all of a sudden your data is being fed into them. And you've all probably used ChatGPT or some of the other systems, asked it some questions and like found, hey, that's kind of a weird answer. That has some specific stuff from like a news group of like that I'm in. How did it get that? It's because of the training data. And so if you dump an extremely useful, valuable, or sensitive data set into one of these partners, who knows where it could wind up? The only way to guarantee it is to deploy your own large language models running on your own hardware. Otherwise, yeah, you're handing over everything that makes you to someone else. So this is a just quick screenshot of our RAG demo and how you would do something like this. We have a question of what is the best 8U GPU for AI computing, and it's got some answers based on our internal sheets. So this, we consider this actual usable results out of an LLM. So it's not general. This isn't an answer OpenAI would give you. This is an answer that this custom purpose-built LLM will give you. And what it looks like in practice, well, here Llama 7 billion has 7 billion parameters, so it needs, at a normal quantization level, about 60 gigabytes of GPU memory to load. And this is sort of the smallest useful enterprise size. And so this is a fancy workstation to even get started with this. We build things at every scale, so from workstation to on-premise. So we do liquid cooling for people with weird needs, like they're on the 17th floor of skyscraper and they may not be able to do facility water there, so they have to do an immersion solution. That's absolutely in our wheelhouse. And then we also work with a bunch of co-location providers, specifically ones who are set up for this type of gear. Maybe they're doing liquid cooling as a default, like partners like Colovor. And then the last one is helping people set up a data center. This is not for the faint of heart. That's probably even harder than training your own model, but we also support people that are in that space as well. So feel free to come and talk with us about it. Thank you for your time. I hope you enjoyed my presentation.